Elaine had lived in the same small apartment for nearly 40 years. She had grown up in the city and never imagined she would see it crumble around her one cold winter night. As she slept, the walls of her apartment building shivered and cracked. She woke to a loud crash, and dust filled the air. Her heart pounded as she scrambled out with only the clothes on her back. She looked around the street she had walked 1,000 times, and now it was filled with broken bricks and twisted metal. She had nowhere to go. Her savings had been gone after years of paying bills and helping her family. She thought of her daughter Megan, who had a big house in the suburbs and a successful life. Surely Megan would help. She walked to the house and knocked. She waited as the door opened and saw Megan and her husband Thomas standing there. Their faces were cold and unsmiling. Elaine tried to explain what had happened, how the building collapsed, and how she had nowhere else to go. She asked if she could stay just for a few nights. Megan looked at her with anger and disbelief. "You expect us to take you in after all these years?" she said. "You are a burden, you are a parasite." Thomas nodded in agreement and added, "We work hard and we do not need you here." Elaine felt her chest tighten. She could not believe her own daughter would say such words. She left the house feeling crushed and alone. The streets were dark and she shivered as she walked. She remembered her old car parked a few blocks away and climbed in for the night. She pulled a blanket over herself and tried to sleep, but the fear and shame kept her awake. The city felt bigger and colder than ever. She thought of the people she had cared for when she worked as a nanny and a helper for families. She remembered a boy she had raised named Luke. He had grown up to be a doctor and was successful and respected. Elaine had always been proud of him. She hesitated, but finally called his number. Her hands shook as she waited for him to pick up. "Hello, Elaine." She heard his voice. It was warm and familiar. She explained everything, and he did not hesitate. He said he would come right away. She felt a flicker of hope for the first time in hours. Hours passed slowly, and Elaine tried to keep her mind busy. She thought of all the memories she had in her apartment, the laughter, the small parties, the quiet nights. She felt sadness, but also a strange sense of determination. She would survive. She would find a way to live. She could not let herself give up. Soon she heard the sound of a car and saw Luke stepping out. He hugged her tightly and said, "You do not have to stay in that car. I will take care of you." Elaine felt tears fill her eyes. She had lost her home, and her daughter had rejected her, but she had not lost all hope. Luke helped her into the car and drove her to his home. She saw a large, beautiful house with lights shining warmly through the windows. She felt disbelief and relief. She realized that some people grow up to build lives full of love and success, and now she was part of his life. He told her she would have a home, a place to rest, and people who cared for her. She felt a weight lift from her shoulders. She felt the beginning of something new. She looked out the window at the city lights and whispered to herself, "Maybe this is a new start." Elaine spent the first morning in Luke's home feeling both awe and nervousness. She had never been in a house this large before. The floors gleamed and the walls were decorated with beautiful paintings. She wandered slowly through the rooms, touching the furniture and feeling the soft rugs under her feet. Luke noticed her curiosity and smiled. "You can take your time," he said. "This is your home too." Elaine felt warmth in her chest. She had not felt this kind of safety in years. After breakfast, Luke sat her down and asked what she wanted to do. She thought for a moment. She had spent decades caring for others, and now it was time to care for herself, but she did not want to be idle. Luke understood. He suggested she could help with some of the charity work he did. He explained that he had started a small foundation to help children with health problems. She hesitated at first. She had never imagined herself working in such a role, but then she remembered all the children she had cared for. She could still make a difference. Luke arranged for her to meet the team, and Elaine felt welcome immediately. They showed her the offices, the volunteers, and explained the work. She felt excitement bubbling inside her. She could still use her experience to help others. She started going to the offices daily, helping organize events and visiting children. She felt needed again. She realized that dignity and respect came not from having a home or money, but from being able to give and receive kindness. She began to rebuild her confidence slowly. The world outside seemed less harsh. She thought of Megan and Thomas, but no longer felt the same hurt. She understood that their cruelty was their weakness and not hers. She had lived too long and seen too much to be broken by words. She focused on Luke and the people who cared for her. She began to feel a new rhythm in life. She would wake early, have breakfast with Luke, and then spend the day at the foundation. She met new friends, volunteers, and families who appreciated her. She learned new skills and found joy in small accomplishments. She laughed more than she had in years. She even started to take long walks in the neighborhood, enjoying the sunshine and the breeze. She discovered small cafes and parks and began to feel the city again, not as a place of fear, but as a place of possibility. One evening, as she returned home, Luke asked if she would like to meet some of the donors and supporters. She agreed and was amazed at the respect they showed her. They listened to her stories and thanked her for her work. Elaine realized that she was not just a visitor in Luke's world, she was an important part of it. She began to feel proud of herself in a way she had not in decades. She remembered the nights in her car, the cold, the fear, and realized how far she had come. She understood that sometimes losing everything could be the start of finding something greater. She felt grateful for Luke's kindness, but also proud of her own strength. She was no longer the helpless woman who had knocked on Megan's door. She was a woman who had survived and was beginning to thrive. She went to bed that night with a sense of peace and excitement for the days to come. She knew challenges would appear, but now she felt ready to face them. She had a family built on love and respect, and that was worth more than anything she had lost. The next morning Elaine woke early feeling the sun on her face. She stretched and walked to the window looking at the city below. It seemed alive and full of possibility. She made herself a cup of tea and thought about the work she would do at the foundation today. Luke had asked her to visit a family whose child needed help. Elaine felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. She had always cared for children, but now she would be helping them in a bigger way. She got ready and Luke drove her to a quiet neighborhood where the family lived. The house was small and modest, but filled with love. A young boy named Daniel opened the door with a shy smile. His mother welcomed Elaine warmly and thanked her for coming. Elaine spent the day with Daniel, showing him small activities, reading books, and listening to his stories. She felt a joy she had almost forgotten. The laughter of the child reminded her of her own past and all the children she had cared for over the years. She felt a deep sense of purpose. After returning home, Luke asked how her day went. Elaine smiled widely. It felt wonderful to help someone and see the difference she could make. He nodded and said this is only the beginning. Elaine felt a spark of hope. She realized that her life could be full of meaning. Even at her age, she began to look forward to each day, planning how she could contribute and grow. She started keeping a journal, writing down thoughts, memories, and ideas for new projects. She reflected on her past hardships and slowly let go of the pain Megan and Thomas had caused. She did not need their approval or love to feel worthy. She had Luke and the foundation and the people she helped. She began to plan small events to raise money for the foundation. Using her experience from years of managing households and organizing small parties, she suggested a charity dinner, and Luke agreed. She worked tirelessly preparing the guest list, decorations, and activities. She wanted everything to be perfect. She felt alive and capable again. The night of the event arrived. Elaine stood at the entrance greeting guests, feeling proud of her efforts. Everyone complimented her dedication and warmth. She watched children laughing and volunteers working together, and felt tears of happiness. She had built a bridge from her past to her present. She realized that loss had given her a new chance to shine. She felt respected and valued in a way she had never experienced. With Megan and Thomas, she even began to reconnect with old friends who were amazed at the transformation in her life. They called her inspirational, and Elaine smiled. She knew the real inspiration came from her own resilience and determination. She had learned that strength came from action and kindness, not from wealth or family. She felt ready to take on more challenges to help more people. She began to imagine a future where she could leave a legacy of love and care. She felt confident in her purpose and in herself. Elaine understood that life could be cruel, but it could also be beautiful. She closed her eyes that night, feeling grateful for the twists of fate that led her to this new chapter. She knew that from now on she would create her own happiness, and no one could take that away from her. Elaine's days grew busier and fuller with purpose. She woke each morning eager to contribute and learn. She began to understand that helping others gave her strength and joy. She started organizing health workshops and small community events where families could learn about wellness and care. She felt proud of each achievement and discovered talents she had forgotten. She spoke confidently to groups of parents and children, sharing advice and stories from her years of experience. She even began mentoring some of the younger volunteers, teaching them patience and empathy. They listened to her with respect and admiration. She felt her confidence growing with each passing day. Elaine also started to enjoy simple pleasures again, morning walks in the park, watching the sunlight fall on the trees, cooking new recipes with Luke, sharing laughter over small mistakes, reading books she had never had time for, and even planting flowers in Luke's garden. She realized that happiness was not only about security or wealth, but also about being present and feeling useful. One afternoon, while reviewing papers for the foundation, Elaine received a call from Megan. She had not spoken to her daughter since the collapse of her apartment, and she felt a flicker of nervousness. She hesitated before answering, but curiosity got the better of her. "Hello, Megan," said Elaine quietly. There was silence on the other end before Megan finally spoke. "You have some nerve calling me after everything you made me go through," she said. "I am fine," Elaine replied calmly. "I have found a home and work that I love and people who care about me." Megan's voice wavered a little, and she said, "I do not know why you think I can help you after what happened." Elaine took a deep breath and said, "I do not need anything from you. I only hope you understand that words have power and actions have consequences." She hung up the phone, feeling a strange mix of relief and closure. She realized that she no longer needed her daughter's approval or love to feel worthy. She had built a life full of dignity and respect. She continued to grow her work at the foundation, helping more families and expanding programs. Her reputation in the city grew, and more people volunteered and donated. She even started a small scholarship fund for children with health challenges, giving them hope for a brighter future. Elaine felt proud of the woman she had become. She had taken the pain of rejection and turned it into motivation to help and inspire others. She spent evenings with Luke, sharing stories of the day, planning new projects, and laughing over small moments. She felt love and companionship without needing to depend on anyone else for happiness. She also began to enjoy quiet reflection, thinking about her past struggles and how they shaped her. She knew that life could be unpredictable and harsh, but it also offered second chances and new beginnings. She had discovered that strength comes from perseverance and self-belief. She felt ready for whatever challenges might come, knowing she could face them with courage and grace. Elaine's heart was lighter. She no longer feared being alone or rejected. She had found her place in the world. She had built a family based on care and respect. She had found purpose and joy. She had learned that life's greatest gifts often arrive when we least expect them and that true happiness comes from giving and growing and loving in return. Elaine's reputation continued to grow in the city. People began to notice her work with children and families. She was invited to speak at local events and community gatherings. She shared her story of loss and resilience, of finding purpose and creating a life built on kindness and action. Her words inspired many and brought new volunteers and donors to the foundation. She felt proud of the impact she was making. Each morning she woke with energy and excitement, ready to face new challenges. She organized medical camps with Luke and coordinated volunteers to reach neighborhoods that had little access to care. She visited homes and schools, offering advice and support, and slowly the community began to trust her. Her presence became a symbol of hope and compassion. Elaine started receiving letters and messages from people who had been helped by the foundation. They shared their gratitude and stories of change. She read them carefully, feeling joy and fulfillment. She realized that her life had changed completely, from the lonely nights in her car to mornings filled with purpose and afternoons spent making a difference. She also noticed that news of her work had reached Megan's circle. Friends and neighbors began asking about her mother, and some expressed regret for how Megan had treated Elaine. She kept her dignity and chose not to engage in gossip. Instead, she focused on growth and giving. She began to plan a larger project, a community center where children could play, learn, and receive support. She worked tirelessly with architects, planners, and volunteers. She wanted it to be a place of joy and safety for everyone. She also discovered that she enjoyed learning new skills. She took basic courses in administration and event management to help the foundation grow more efficiently. She realized that life did not stop at 65. She could still learn, achieve, and influence. She felt excitement and determination unlike anything she had felt before. One afternoon, while reviewing plans for the community center, Elaine received an unexpected visitor. It was an old neighbor who had known Megan and Thomas. They told her that Megan had been receiving criticism for how she had treated her mother in the past, and that some people in the neighborhood were beginning to see her cruelty. She felt a mix of emotions, but mostly relief. She did not need revenge. She only needed to continue building a life based on kindness. She knew that truth had a way of reaching people. Eventually, she continued her work, pouring energy into projects and helping more families. The foundation began to attract attention from local newspapers and TV stations, who wanted to highlight her journey from hardship to empowerment. She gave interviews sharing lessons about resilience, compassion, and the importance of helping others. She felt proud not for fame, but for the chance to inspire. Elaine began to mentor other women who had faced difficulties. She shared advice on how to overcome rejection and find purpose. She spoke about dignity, self-respect, and the importance of taking action. She felt joy in seeing them grow and succeed. She also noticed that her relationship with Luke had deepened. They were close friends, companions, and allies in their mission. She felt warmth and comfort in his presence, knowing she had someone she could trust completely. Elaine reflected on her past years and realized how far she had come. She had faced loss, rejection, and loneliness, but had turned each challenge into an opportunity for growth. She felt strong, confident, and ready for the next chapter. She knew that the life she had built now was real and lasting. She had found happiness not through wealth or family approval, but through action, love, and purpose. She smiled, knowing that her journey was far from over, and that every day offered a new chance to make a difference. Elaine woke early as usual, feeling the sun streaming through the large windows of Luke's home. She made tea and looked out at the city streets below. She remembered the nights she had spent in her car and felt a deep sense of gratitude for how far she had come. Today she had an important meeting with potential donors for the new community center. She dressed carefully, choosing simple clothes that made her feel confident and ready. She arrived at the meeting with Luke and was greeted warmly by the group of business people, philanthropists, and community leaders. They listened intently as Elaine spoke about her vision for the center. She explained how it would provide children with a safe space to learn, play, and grow. She shared her experiences caring for children and how important it was to give them support. She spoke with sincerity and passion. Her words touched everyone in the room. They promised funding and support. Elaine felt a surge of pride. She realized that her ideas were being taken seriously and that she could create something lasting. She returned home with Luke and began planning the next steps. She drafted schedules for volunteers, assigned tasks, and prepared for the grand opening. She also began working on programs to offer free medical checkups, tutoring, and recreational activities. She felt alive and fulfilled. Her days were long, but she welcomed the challenge. She started receiving letters from children who had benefited from her previous work. They thanked her and shared their dreams. Elaine kept each letter in a special box and read them whenever she needed encouragement. She felt a sense of purpose that no material possession could ever give her. One evening, while organizing files for the foundation, Elaine heard a knock at the door. She opened it to find a neighbor she had known for years. She came in and explained that Megan had been spreading stories about Elaine to make herself look better, but people were beginning to see the truth about her selfishness and cruelty. Elaine felt a quiet satisfaction. She did not need to confront Megan herself. The truth had a way of revealing itself. She continued her work undistracted, focusing on helping families. She also began to mentor young volunteers, showing them leadership and compassion. She taught them that success came not from wealth or power, but from care and dedication. Elaine noticed her own confidence growing. She no longer felt fear or shame from her past experiences. She had transformed from a woman dependent on others to a woman creating change and inspiring people. She reflected on the nights she had slept in her car, the cold fear, the loneliness. She realized that every challenge had prepared her for this life, every difficulty had built resilience, determination, and empathy. She felt grateful for the journey. She also began to enjoy small moments of joy. Reading in the sun, taking walks in the garden, cooking with Luke, and sharing laughter with volunteers. She realized that happiness was found in purpose and connection. She felt connected to her community, and to herself. She knew that her life was now her own, and that she had the power to shape it. She smiled, thinking of the new families she would help, the children who would benefit from the center, and the volunteers who would grow under her guidance. She felt excitement for the future. She had learned that life could be rebuilt even after great loss, that strength and love could emerge from hardship, and that true fulfillment came from helping others. She went to bed that night feeling proud, peaceful, and ready for the next day, knowing that she had created a life full of dignity, purpose, and hope. Elaine's days were filled with activity and purpose. She woke early every morning and spent time planning new programs for the community center. She coordinated with volunteers, visited families, and helped children with learning activities. Her energy and dedication inspired everyone around her. She had grown stronger, more confident, and happier than she had been in years. One afternoon, while reviewing plans for a new health initiative, Elaine received a call from an old acquaintance who had information about Megan and Thomas. She listened quietly as they explained that Megan had been complaining to friends and neighbors about Elaine's success, and how people were talking about her cruelty. Elaine felt a quiet sense of satisfaction. She knew she did not need to act the truth, and her achievements spoke for themselves. She continued her work undistracted, focusing on building programs and helping children. She also began attending charity galas and city events where she met influential people who admired her story and her commitment. Her presence was elegant and humble, yet commanding. She realized that her reputation had grown, and that she now had a voice in the community. She could use it to make lasting change. Elaine also started mentoring young women who had faced hardship, teaching them how to rebuild their lives with dignity and courage. She shared her story and encouraged them to take control of their future. She felt fulfilled seeing them grow confident and independent. One day she received an invitation to speak at a major city event. She accepted with excitement and prepared carefully. She wanted to inspire people with her journey from loss to empowerment. She wore a simple dress that made her feel confident and graceful. She spoke about resilience, courage, and the power of helping others. She shared stories of the children she had helped, the volunteers. Elaine's days were filled with activity and purpose. She woke early every morning and spent time planning new programs for the community center. She coordinated with volunteers, visited families, and helped children with learning activities. Her energy and dedication inspired everyone around her. She had grown stronger, more confident, and happier than she had been in years. One afternoon, while reviewing plans for a new health initiative, Elaine received a call from an old acquaintance who had information about Megan and Thomas. She listened quietly as they explained that Megan had been complaining to friends and neighbors about Elaine's success, and how people were talking about her cruelty. Elaine felt a quiet sense of satisfaction. She knew she did not need to act the truth, and her achievements spoke for themselves. She continued her work undistracted, focusing on building programs and helping children. She also began attending charity galas and city events where she met influential people who admired her story and her commitment. Her presence was elegant and humble, yet commanding. She realized that her reputation had grown, and that she now had a voice in the community. She could use it to make lasting change. Elaine also started mentoring young women who had faced hardship, teaching them how to rebuild their lives with dignity and courage. She shared her story and encouraged them to take control of their future. She felt fulfilled seeing them grow confident and independent. One day she received an invitation to speak at a major city event. She accepted with excitement and prepared carefully. She wanted to inspire people with her journey from loss to empowerment. She wore a simple dress that made her feel confident and graceful. She spoke about resilience, courage, and the power of helping others. She shared stories of the children she had helped, the volunteers. Elaine woke early feeling the crisp morning air on her face. She had a busy day ahead, preparing for the grand opening of the new community center. She walked through the garden with Luke, drinking tea and discussing final plans. She felt a mixture of excitement and pride. The center would be a place of learning, play, and safety for children. She felt that all her hard work was finally coming to life. Volunteers arrived early, helping to arrange decorations, set up activity stations, and prepare food. Elaine moved among them, giving guidance, encouragement, and smiles. She felt alive seeing everyone working together and sharing her vision. Families began to arrive, children holding their parents' hands, wide-eyed and curious. Elaine greeted them warmly, showing them the activities and explaining the programs. The joy and laughter filled the center, and Elaine felt her heart swell with happiness. Cameras and journalists arrived to cover the event. Elaine spoke confidently about the importance of community care and the power of helping others. She shared her story of overcoming loss, rejection, and hardship. Her words resonated with the audience, many of whom were moved to tears. People in the city began to recognize her work and her dedication. Her story spread quickly in local news and social media. She received messages of admiration and support from strangers and friends alike. That afternoon, while taking a break, a familiar voice spoke behind her. It was Megan. Elaine turned slowly and saw the shock on Her daughter's face, she stood tall and calm. Megan opened her mouth, but could not find the right words. She looked around at the families, the volunteers, and the media, and realized that Elaine had achieved far more than she ever had. Elaine smiled softly, and said, "I hope you see that kindness and determination build more than wealth and appearances." Megan looked away, unable to respond. Elaine continued her work without a backward glance. She had no need for confrontation. Her life spoke for itself. People began to approach her, thanking her for creating the center, and sharing how inspired they were by her story. Megan's presence felt small in comparison to the large gathering of support and admiration. Elaine felt a quiet satisfaction. She had faced rejection, humiliation, and loneliness, but now she stood surrounded by people who loved her, respected her, and needed her. She spent the afternoon walking among the children, laughing with volunteers, and taking photos for the local news. She felt proud of the tangible impact she was making and the happiness she could see in the families she helped. That evening, Luke and Elaine sat together in the garden, reflecting on the day. She felt gratitude for his support and for the opportunity to create a life of meaning. She also reflected on how far she had come from the night spent alone in her car. She had transformed her pain into purpose, her loneliness into connection, and her rejection into resilience. Elaine felt a sense of fulfillment and joy. She realized that real success was measured not by wealth or family approval, but by the lives she touched, the hope she inspired, and the love she gave freely. She closed her eyes, feeling peace and excitement for the next chapters of her life, knowing that she had built something lasting and beautiful, and that the best was still ahead. Elaine woke the next morning with a sense of purpose that had only grown stronger since the grand opening of the community center. She poured herself a cup of coffee and gazed out the window at the city below. The streets seemed brighter somehow, as if reflecting the change in her own life. She spent the morning reviewing plans for the expansion of the foundation. Luke arrived with a stack of letters and emails from people expressing gratitude and support. Elaine smiled as she read each one, feeling the impact of her work reached far beyond what she had imagined. She called a meeting with her team of volunteers and discussed new programs, tutoring for children, medical checkups, and recreational activities for families in need. She delegated responsibilities and encouraged everyone to share ideas. She felt proud watching their enthusiasm grow and their commitment to the mission. Elaine also began reaching out to other philanthropists and organizations in the city, forming partnerships that would strengthen the foundation. She attended meetings and networking events, sharing her story and her vision. Her calm confidence and genuine passion won people over. She felt energized by the opportunity to make a larger difference. Meanwhile, news of Elaine's achievements reached Megan and Thomas. They had been struggling to maintain their social image as more people became aware of Elaine's charitable work and the contrast with their own selfish behavior. Elaine felt a quiet sense of justice, knowing that her integrity and kindness had created respect and admiration. While their cruelty was now being noticed, she did not seek revenge, but understood that life had a way of balancing itself. Elaine focused on building the foundation and mentoring younger volunteers. She shared lessons about resilience, self-respect, and the importance of helping others. She felt fulfilled seeing them grow confident and capable. She also spent time with Luke, discussing the long-term vision for the foundation and planning future projects. She realized that at her age she had achieved more than she had ever imagined, and that her journey was only beginning. One afternoon, while visiting a family in need, Elaine heard that Megan had been trying to contact neighbors and friends to repair her image. Elaine listened politely to the news, but did not let it distract her. She knew that actions spoke louder than words, and that her life now was a testament to what true kindness and determination could achieve. That evening she returned to the community center to check on the progress of new classrooms. She watched children laughing, playing, and learning, and felt a deep sense of accomplishment. She understood that the foundation was not just buildings and programs, but a living proof of hope and transformation. Elaine reflected on the journey from the lonely nights in her car to the vibrant life she now led. She had faced rejection, humiliation, and fear, yet she had turned those challenges into strength, purpose, and joy. She felt gratitude for Luke for his support and friendship, but also for herself for never giving up. She had created a life filled with love, respect, and meaningful work. She knew that every day offered new opportunities to grow, to help, and to inspire. She felt confident that the future held even greater possibilities for her and the people she touched. She closed her eyes that night, feeling fulfilled, knowing that her life had become a story of resilience and triumph that would continue to impact others for years to come. Elaine woke early, feeling the energy of a new day. She had built a life full of purpose, love, and respect, and today she would see the fruits of all her efforts. The foundation had grown far beyond what she had imagined. Families, children, volunteers, and supporters gathered for a special citywide event celebrating the success of her work. The community center was now a hub of learning, play, and care, and the news of Elaine's journey had spread across the city. She walked through the crowd warmly, greeting families and volunteers, shaking hands with donors, and exchanging smiles with children who looked up to her with admiration. Everywhere she went, people thanked her and praised her dedication. She felt a deep sense of pride and fulfillment. She knew that this life, built from nothing, was hers and hers alone. Amid the crowd, she noticed Megan and Thomas standing awkwardly at a distance. Their faces were pale and uncertain. They had come to see the event, but were confronted with the reality of Elaine's transformation. The guests and volunteers greeted them politely, but many gave quiet looks of disapproval for their past cruelty. Elaine felt calm. She had no need for confrontation. The truth was evident for everyone to see. Her life was full, her heart was light, and her purpose clear. She walked up to Megan and said softly, "I hope you understand now that words and actions have meaning." Elaine looked at her daughter with compassion, but not expectation. Megan's eyes filled with tears. She had seen the impact Elaine had made, the love she had earned, and the respect she commanded. She realized that she had lost the chance to be part of her mother's journey, and that her cruelty had only highlighted her own emptiness. Thomas looked away embarrassed. The crowd around them was busy celebrating Elaine's achievements, but the quiet lesson of integrity, resilience, and compassion was clear to all. Elaine turned back to the children, volunteers, and families. She spent the day speaking, laughing, and inspiring. She awarded certificates to volunteers, shared stories of families helped, and listened to children dream about their futures. She felt fulfilled knowing that her life had created something lasting and beautiful. The evening ended with a ceremony unveiling a new scholarship fund in Elaine's name to support children in need. She stood proudly accepting the recognition, but her heart was full of gratitude for the opportunity to make a difference. She thought of the nights she had spent in her car, the rejection she had faced, and the despair she had felt. It all seemed distant now, replaced by love, respect, and purpose. She realized that true happiness and success were not measured by wealth or family approval, but by the lives she touched and the hope she inspired. Elaine walked home with Luke that evening feeling peaceful and accomplished. She knew that her journey had been difficult, but it had led her to the life she now lived. She had built a family based on love, a life based on integrity, and a legacy of compassion. She smiled knowing that she had faced hardship, embraced opportunity, and emerged stronger, wiser, and fulfilled. She had found her place in the world, and nothing could take that away. Her story of resilience, triumph, and love would inspire generations, and her life would continue to shine as a testament to the power of hope, courage, and kindness. Several years had passed since Elaine had transformed her life. The community center had grown into multiple locations across the city, and her foundation was now well known for supporting children and families in need. Elaine woke early one morning feeling the familiar warmth of the sun on her face. She brewed her coffee and looked out at the city streets below. She saw families walking to the center's, children laughing, and volunteers arriving ready to start the day. She felt a deep sense of fulfillment and joy for the life she had built over the years. Elaine had continued mentoring young women, teaching them how to overcome hardship with dignity and courage. She had shared her story in schools and at events, inspiring countless people to take action and make a difference. She had received awards and recognition, but it was never about fame. It was about impact and creating a better world for those who needed hope. Elaine's relationship with Luke had grown into a lifelong partnership. They supported each other, laughed together, and worked side by side on every project. They celebrated victories and faced challenges together, but most of all they shared respect and love. Elaine often reflected on her journey, from the nights spent alone in her car to standing in front of hundreds of people as a symbol of hope and resilience. She had faced rejection, loss, and loneliness, but had transformed every hardship into strength and purpose. She had created a life full of meaning and fulfillment. Megan and Thomas had gradually retreated from their social circles and faced the consequences of their past behavior. The community had recognized Elaine's integrity and kindness, and her story had become a quiet lesson for those who valued appearance over action. Elaine never sought revenge. She knew that living a life of purpose and compassion was the greatest response. Elaine spent her days traveling to different centers, meeting children, families, and volunteers. She saw the direct impact of her work in the smiles and laughter of the people she helped. She started a long-term scholarship and health program that ensured children had access to education and care for years to come. Elaine also began writing a memoir, sharing her experiences of resilience, hope, and transformation. She wanted others to know that it was never too late to rebuild a life and create impact. She continued mentoring, teaching, and speaking, but she also made time for simple pleasures. Walks in the park, reading books, and quiet moments with Luke. She understood that balance and self-care were part of lasting success. One evening she stood at the largest center looking out at the playground filled with children laughing. She felt tears of joy and pride. She had turned every obstacle into opportunity, every challenge into growth, and every moment of despair into hope. She realized that life had given her a second chance, and she had embraced it fully. Elaine smiled knowing that her legacy would continue through the children she helped, the volunteers she inspired, and the lives she touched. She had created something lasting, beautiful, and meaningful. She had faced the harshest trials and emerged stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. She had found love, purpose, and happiness in a way that no one could take away. Her story was no longer about loss or rejection. It was about triumph, resilience, and the power of a life lived with kindness, courage, and determination. Elaine's heart was full. She knew that she had done more than survive. She had thrived and had created a life that would inspire generations. She had truly become a beacon of hope and a living proof that it is never too late to start anew and make a difference in the world.